Well, hello, and welcome back to the Chicks in Construction podcast. I'm your host, Mikki Paradise, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Jessica Abreu.
Today, we are going to give you guys a shout out because we appreciate everybody going to chicksinconstruction.com and submitting your homeowner horror stories so that we can go through them, get all the tea, get all the hot goss, and pick one to talk about on our episodes. So today we've found a juicy one, and Jess is going to be walking us through the details.
Right. So I made a few notes so that I wouldn't forget what was
the hot goss, the tea, the scoop, gossip, if you will.
Okay. So this one happened right here in North Carolina.
Shocker.
They say that they were going to make an unused space that was already framed and had electrical in it. They wanted to make it an office or potentially a bedroom for resale value.
So was it like in the attic space, or it was like on a main level and it was just unfinished space?
Yeah, on the main level. It says attached to their kids' playroom.
Okay.
So wanted to make it an office and then potentially a bedroom. So it doesn't have a closet yet. So I guess they need to add a closet. That's one of the things that's in here. So they go on to say that they had a few people come out to bid the job and that all the bids were relatively close. So they went with the person that was in the middle, which it seemed appropriate.
Did they say what the process was of them? Like, how did they source these people to bid the projects?
Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Facebook
That's new.
Referrals. Yes. Who have you used to do something?
Oh, so they went to like one of those networking of the triangle and asked for recommendations on Facebook?
Yeah, they must have used some group and they asked for recommendations.
Okay.
And people responded and they went with a few of those and had whoever. They also said they had trouble having people show up to come bid the job.
Oh, okay.
They called, no one called them back, which maybe people
not
too
uncommon.
Busy. They liked the people that they were going to have in their home, felt comfortable with them, and that they were going to have different people come in to do the HVAC and the electrical work. Well, when the electrician showed up and came to put the electrical sockets in, he asked them about a permit. And they said, this was the first time we had ever heard of permitting this job. And we asked him if that was something that we needed to do. He told us that, no, you don't have to do it, but it's probably a good idea and you should talk to your general contractor.
Okay. We're going to throw a flag on that play. I'm licensed in the state of North Carolina, so our advice is for the state of North Carolina, but this is probably pretty solid advice for like whatever state you're in. When you're adding a room that is going to potentially be a bedroom, they gave them the right advice in the sense that it does need to have a closet for it to be considered a place where someone sleeps and dwells. But in order to add a room to your home, when it was originally permitted, it was unfinished, so that space was never inspected. You absolutely have to pull a permit for the purpose of resale value. So you should pull the permits for many reasons, but the resale value is the one that really catches you in the pants because you're thinking, okay, well, my bedroom used to be a 3-bedroom home, but now it's 4 bedrooms. But because you didn't get it permitted, you can't add that additional square foot or that bedroom into your sales price or in how you advertise the home. So you can't get paid for the additional square footage. And there's also a lot of stuff. We did a project where they were on septic. And so septic is very specific to the amount of bedrooms that you can have in a house. And they bought the house to add a bedroom on it. And the realtor told them they were fine to do that. And it was when they were going to sell it years later that a really good realtor pulled their septic permit and realized that that extra bedroom couldn't be sustainable on the septic system. It was a huge deal. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to pull a permit for issues of something like septic, but also because you want that work inspected. And I will say, our inspection's a pain in the butt? Yes. Our permit's a pain in the butt? Yes. Does it slow things down? Yes. But that's also how you make sure that the work was done correctly. Because without that, debacles are abundant. The shenaniganing continue on.
And when you want to go resell your house, now all the money that you put into that
right,
addition
you
or whatever,
can't recoup that.
You can't even recoup it.
That's flag on the play one. Always get a permit.
So they went back to their general contractor and asked them if they needed the permit. And they also told them that if they wanted a permit, that they, the homeowner, could go and pull the permit themselves.
That's a flag too. If a general contractor tells you as a homeowner to go pull a permit, they are not licensed. So the way, again, in North Carolina, the way that permits work, that could have easily been a $40,000 value. It could have been under $40,000. But in North Carolina, to do any work over $40,000, you have to be licensed. But a lot of contractors that aren't licensed, they just stay out of the permit office. Even though they technically could pull the permit if it was under $40,000, they just stay away from the permitting office because, anybody knowing who they are. So if ever a GC honestly doesn't recommend that you get permits on something like that, or tells you that you have to go get the permits yourself, then you need to immediately go check whatever licensing board in your state or in wherever you are to see if these people are actually licensed general contractors. And that makes a really big difference because for general contractors in North Carolina, you have to take continuing education classes. So every year I have to take 8 hours of continuing education classes that help me know what changed in the code, which every year there's something new. Something to understand too is there is a difference between a licensed general contractor, a person who has taken the test and passed the test and is actually a licensed general contractor, and a company that has a license. So if the person that you're dealing with did not physically take the general contracting test, they are not a licensed general contractor. Their company may have a license, but they are not. And there's a lot of information. Listen, I studied for 70 plus hours to take that test. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot that goes behind taking that test. There's a reason why it's a 5.5 hour test. There's a reason why a lot of people don't take it because it's hard and you need to know what you need to know to take that test. So sometimes it's about asking more specific questions. You're a licensed general contractor, so you yourself hold the license, or is your company licensed? Big difference. Big knowledge gap there.
And if they wanted to look online to figure out if it was the company or the person that was licensed, how would they go about doing that?
So in North Carolina, you can go to the North Carolina Licensing Board and you can type in their company name. If it comes up that they have a license, you can click to see the name of the qualifier. So a qualifier is the person who actually took the test and is qualifying this company within the state, saying this is the person who holds the license and this is the person who's involved in this company. There can be a lot of different people working for a general contracting company as project managers or in other things that are not the license holder, but they work for a general contractor. But you want to be dealing, at least in the beginning, with that license holder, with that person who knows the ins and outs because they took the time to learn the things, to take the test, to pass the test, and have all of this continuing education. I took a codes class the other day and it blew my mind just right out of my skull, the things that have changed. And you don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And they require you to learn those things when you're the license holder. When you're not, you're just flying by the seat of your pants.
And this person flew. They ended up deciding not to pull the permits because they just didn't want to go down to licensing.
They felt really overwhelmed, I'm sure, because honestly, pulling a permit as a GC is that's a lot.
So they didn't do it because they were told it wasn't
that big of a deal.
So fine. I mean, mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
So the next thing is that they said that the room that they were finishing up was long and narrow. They wanted to have AC and heat, obviously, in the room because who wants to be hot or cold ever? Now, because it is above the garage, they thought that they would need
it's above the garage. Okay.
They thought that they would need 2 vents in the ceiling.
Right.
So that's where it was going.
And it's long. And per code, it can only be something feet, 7 or 8 feet. Maybe it's 10 feet. I'm not an HVAC contractor. But an HVAC contractor would know.
Yep. Well, the
Ideally.
HVAC guys came in and they said, oh, no, you only need one. Now, the homeowner is like, I think it was because they only wanted to have to cut one hole in the ceiling, as they would have to have climbed through some stuff to put the other one in.
Okay, yeah. And again, if you had gotten a permit, an inspector would have come in and be like, no, you need another. They can, honestly, permits and inspectors keep
things.
Contractors in check.
So they said that after the job was all done and everything was painted, that they needed to go back and have the HVAC another vent put in. And they had the duct run with another company that was willing to go climb up in the ceiling.
Oh, so they had to bring in another HVAC
company at the end after the project was all done.
Fun. Great.
Sounds like a great time.
Sounds like a delight.
And we should have known that this general contractor, we needed to split ways right away.
Yeah.
Once the HVAC was in and the installation and the electrical, they started building a closet. The closet took 2 weeks.
To frame? Drywall, frame, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yo, I could frame and drywall a closet in a day.
2 weeks.
And like I'm out of practice. My back would hurt, but it could take me a day to frame and drywall a closet.
So that's when they started to think like, oh, maybe we have the wrong people.
Okay, so the homeowners started to panic on the 2 week timeline.
I don't know what's happening here. We also had concerns because there were days, usually a Monday or a Friday, when we would get a text early in the morning from the general contractor saying that he wasn't going to be able to come because he was not feeling well.
Oh.
After this happened repeatedly, we assumed that it had to do with late night partying and drinking.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, consistently.
It's like, that's such a bad look. Like,
text somebody, oh, I'm not feeling well.
Every Monday and every Friday aren't great days for me.
Great days. And like, it would be okay if someone said, I'm only going to work on your project Tuesday through Thursday.
Right.
Like
set the expectations. I don't work Mondays and Fridays.
But
I'm living my best life.
To text every time when like things are taking forever, that sounds awful.
That sounds awful. That does.
So my poor husband has a bleeding heart and was like, no, we're not going to fire them. We're going to let them continue. So we let them continue. They end up putting the drywall up and trying to put some kind of tape on it. And I'm not sure what the word is. Mud? Is that?
Yeah, mud.
Okay, that's what they called it. And I'm a homeowner.
So
I'm not sure.
When I'm envisioning this room, it's over the garage. I'm envisioning the room is kind of following the roof line. It goes up to like regular height in the middle, and then it comes down to the sides, and then it goes down to the ground. Is that kind of what they described?
Yes, because they're saying that halfway up the wall, there was a line.
Okay. They were just like working with the roof line in the framing, a half wall, and then it comes up, and then there's a ceiling here. And that's how you get your ceiling height there. But like, it's very narrow. And that is tricky work because all of those are 45-degree angles. So where the ceiling and drywall comes together with the wall, that's a 45. And then where this wall comes together with the straight wall is another 45. And 45s are tricky. So a 90-degree angle is a really easy angle to finish. It's the most common. It's an inside corner. But a 45, you have to use a special bead, like a special type of product. So you have to use a level line or a straight flex. And it's a bead that will essentially, you unroll it. It's supposed to have a memory. You kind of pinch it at that 45-degree angle. And ideally, it gives you a straight line. But if you don't know what you're doing and you use regular drywall tape.
They said it looked like the ocean.
They just taped it.
They said it looked like the ocean. That she walked into the room when they were done and she felt a little drunk.
Oh, nice. She's like, I had my sea leg.
Because it was wavy. And now you would think that would be the worst part, but no. She went to go put the face plates on the outlets.
They didn't even put the face plates back?
No, they didn't put the face plates back.
Oh.
She went to go put those on the outlets. And the hole around.
Oh, they overcut the holes.
The outlet was so big that when you put the faceplate on, there was still space.
Oh, man.
That was nothing. There was nothing there.
It was just like, great, my kids can stick their fingers right into live wires.
So she said, so I take a picture of it and I send it to the general contractor with, what are you going to do about this? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yes, several question marks later.
They respond, we'll be there today to discuss our next step.
Great. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
At least they showed up. I mean,
it wasn't a Friday, I guess.
Clearly it was not Monday or Friday.
So they show up and she says, we asked them about the waves, which
The
are
waves.
halfway up the wall.
Yeah.
And the holes. And they went and looked around the room. Like it was the first time that they had seen this issue, which made her question her sanity.
Yeah.
Because like, what could possibly be going on?
They're like, wow, we've never seen this before. Really?
She goes, and then his wife says, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. We are not professionals at drywall. We're going to hire a professional for you to come fix this. Now, I would, at that point, I would have been like, why did you attempt?
Yeah.
If it's not easy,
It's not. Like,
why would you attempt it?
Because a lot of people think drywall is easy. I always tell people it's like Tiger Woods playing golf. Like, I watch Tiger Woods swing that thing and I'm like, I could do that. And then I get out on a golf course and I swing and I miss, or I swing and I hit it and it goes about 5 feet. And I'm like, wait a second. This is actually a lot harder than it looks. There's a little bit more that goes into this. And everybody thinks drywall is like, oh, no big deal. Just sand it 52 times. A professional drywaller, you sand it once. Really, when Hector, he's like the creme de la creme of drywallers. When he sands, when he does your work, it barely needs to be sanded. Like, it's so smooth that like you can't tell whether it's been sanded or it hasn't. That's the key to knowing that you're dealing with a really professional drywaller. But
this one was
was not that.
It was not that. It was not. So if you see waves in your drywall, tell them to hire somebody else.
Yeah. A professional, please.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. At this point, she said that once the person that they hired, that the general contractor hired to come do the drywall, it was fixed. The poor guy that came in, she goes, he looked around the room and then just like put his hand to his head and was like, oh my God. And like, that's when you know it's bad, that the professional is like, hasn't seen anything like this, because like this poor guy had to go and try to fix it. She says, once he was done, we told the general contractor that we no longer wanted any more work done. Oh, I missed a part. Somewhere in here, they also said that the general contractor didn't buy the baseboard that they wanted that would match, or the closet that would match the whole house.
Like, there's all kinds of doors. There's a 6-panel door, there's a 5-panel door, there's all kind of very specific trim. So they had a specific trim type.
She said that she wanted the trim to match the rest of the house. That the whole house had this very specific trim that went around, and their doors were very particular.
Yeah.
And she wanted it to match. So it looked like the room had always been there since the house was built.
Yeah.
And she said that they went and bought the cheapest baseboard and had put that up along with the waves.
Oh, nice.
You know, it was beautiful.
Nice. Gorgeous.
She said it was fantastic. And that the closet doors, while they weren't put up, they were brought to their house and left in the garage. And they looked at them and were like, these are not the doors that we told you that we wanted. Please return them and get the right ones.
Yeah.
So once the new baseboard was brought in and the closet door, they separated from the general contractor and got a handyman to come finish the rest.
Fun.
Because who doesn't want to hire yet another person?
Yet another person. After having to have another drywall company, another HVAC company to come in. Like, my God.
It's just the rolling. So the handyman came and he took a look at putting the baseboard up, putting the closet in, and also putting light fixtures in. Because at this point, she said, we trusted these people to do nothing. She's like, for all I know, that they would try to put the lights in and burn the house down.
Oh, yeah. Again,
small electrical fire.
Inspections.
Things that you want to happen. So the poor handyman, he did the baseboards, no problem. Put up the lights, no problem. He went to do the closet doors, and that's when we found out that the closet was completely crooked. There was no right angles. Nothing was straight.
Nothing was plumb.
Yep. He had to sand the doors, Jimmy rig them up, take the fixtures
The hardware.
on and off. Yes, on and off numerous times to get it all to match up because they were just so crooked. She says that now the room is almost done. It is still not completely painted because when they had to put the extra vents in, the guy cut a big hole, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's still a big hole and there needs to be paint. But the closet does close. The temperature is correct. And my husband is able to work in there without being disturbed by anyone else.
Well, I mean, compared to some of the stories we've heard, not the worst, but still. Did they say like what the time frame was on this whole project start to finish?
6 months.
6 months to finish an unfinished bonus room. Wowza. That's amazing. But then at the end of the day, they can't even count it when they go to sell the house. Like, so the money that they spent, did they say how much they spent?
They didn't put down how much they spent, but she did say that they are looking into potentially permitting because they are also worried about if there was ever a fire in their home.
Yeah, with that unconditioned space that wasn't permitted, which is a big thing. I've been trying really hard to get a public adjuster on the show because they know so much about. They're the best people to kind of go through your insurance policies and explain to you how things work. And they were telling me that if you get unpermitted work done in your house and it's found that that is what caused a fire, your insurance company might not cover you. And I'm just like, oh, hell no. If we were to grab takeaways from today's episode, it's the purpose of you hiring a general contractor is because they're experts in their industry. So if you're an expert in your industry, then you have a license. That's just how that works. It means you put the time and money into getting that license. You're a licensed general contractor. You can be easily looked up on the North Carolina Licensing Board. And also, that's a protection for you where if someone is licensed and they don't do you right, you can report them to the licensing board. Now, if you're working with a contractor that's not licensed, you don't have any means.
And they ain't gonna care.
Right. And they're like, well, next time hire somebody licensed, don't know what to tell you. So the licensing board and somebody having a license, it serves a lot of things. It proves that these people have some point of knowledge, that at least they studied and took that 5.5-hour test, that they are continuing to take the continuing education classes because in North Carolina, they enacted that a couple of years ago. Yeah, listen, some of the educational classes are like the biggest waste of time ever. But when you get good ones, it's like, oh, this is such great information. They are investing in their knowledge base. And so really taking the time to hire a general contractor that is licensed is really key. That's an investment in what you're doing. So key step one is really make sure that when you're hiring somebody that they're actually a general contractor and not just saying that. And I will say, there are people who call themselves general contractors that are not licensed. Number one, if they're not licensed, they cannot do any project over the cost of $40,000. I had somebody try to argue with me that it was just the material cost, but that's actually not true. When I took my continuing education class, the guy that was teaching it was the head honcho of something in North Carolina. And I asked him that question. Is it total cost or is it total cost of what you're billing the client? And it's total cost of what you're billing the client. So it's your markup, your overhead, all the things that you put in, that is considered part of that $40,000. So if the project is more than $40,000, you immediately need to have a license. However, anytime you are doing electrical work in the state of North Carolina, anytime you're doing electrical work, it needs to be installed by a licensed electrician. It needs to be permitted. It needs to be inspected. Same thing with HVAC, same thing with plumbing. You as a homeowner can pull the permits if you don't want to hire a general contractor, but you know a licensed electrician and you know a licensed plumber and you know a licensed HVAC guy. You as the homeowner can pull your own permits. But that doesn't exclude or exonerate you from needing these permits. They need to be pulled because that work needs to be inspected and the people that are installing it need to be licensed. So even if the general contractor you're working with isn't licensed, because maybe the project is under $40,000, they should be using all licensed trades and permits should be getting pulled regardless. I cannot stress this enough that permits are for the purpose of serving the homeowner or the owner of the structures. In commercial and what we do, like drywall is not inspected, even though I think it should be. But those inspections serve the owner of the buildings that we're doing the drywall in to make sure that the electrical was done correctly, to make sure that the framing was done correctly. There's all these things that those inspectors inspect and they catch and they make sure that it was built to plan. And it's really, really important. So biggest red flag, get your permit. If a GC tries to tell you that a permit doesn't matter, run, don't walk. I've met people that were general contractors and didn't have their license and they were good at what they did. But I always find it to be really questionable. Why wouldn't you just go take that test? Why wouldn't you just get that licensing? It adds so much more protections for you and for the homeowner. And so it's a little shady. I won't throw shade. As long as they're not operating above that $40,000 and they're getting permits and they're having licensed electricians and licensed plumbers come and install your stuff, I'll allow it. But if they're claiming to be licensed and then saying that you have to go pull your own permits,
run,
don't walk. Run, don't walk. So I think like really, it probably didn't cost them any extra. Well, it did because they had to hire the handyman. They had to go back and hire the additional HVAC people. At the end of the day, I have gotten calls from people who have had the same thing happen to them and they were going to sell their house and they now wanted to get the permit. And let me tell you, it's a nightmare because basically the inspector is going to want to come and see all the connections, all the electrical connections. They're going to want to see the connection for that HVAC. If they can't get up into the attic, you're going to have to cut the drywall out so they can see the ductwork that was run to make sure that like the appropriate materials were used. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. HVAC is actually kind of wild. My nephew is an HVAC contractor and like blows my mind. Going back afterwards will cost them quite a bit of money to get that permitted because they're going to have to take a lot of stuff down and then put it back up. It cost them more than it was worth to just go and get those permits. Nothing is worth just not getting the permits. And if it's an issue of time, I will say that there's a new rule. I learned about this in my continuing education class. There's a new rule that an inspector has 2 days to come and inspect your house. So it really doesn't take that much time. And the permits office only has 48 hours to issue your permit. So when a GC comes and says, oh, it's going to take this much time to get your permits and then the inspections.
Liars.
They're being a little dramatic. There is requirements by the state that a permit has to be turned over in X amount of days and an inspection has to happen upon request no more than 2 days after that inspection. And if that doesn't happen for you, there are people that you can call to remedy that issue. And all of that only happens when you've pulled the permits and you're getting things inspected. So
yeah, they said they're going to go through the process of trying to pull the permits so that they can know that everything was done.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, they said it was already framed and they did know that they had licensed HVAC and electrical.
Oh, that's good.
So probably they did everything
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll just be whether or not the inspector can actually see the stuff.
Right. And that's sometimes not so easy, especially in those, like, it was a really small space to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's, I get a lot of calls. We're like, well, we had to remove half the drywall in our bonus room because we didn't get it permitted. And now we're trying to get it permitted. And the inspector wants this down and that down and this down. And I'm like, so we just gonna re-drywall it? Like
the whole thing. The whole thing. Just knock it down and start over.
I say that a lot. I'm like, let's just burn it down and start from scratch. That's probably the best course of action. But great story. And thank you guys for submitting your homeowner horror stories. Please remember to go to the website and submit yours there's a little forum. You just go to chicksandconstruction.com and it has a little button that says submit your construction horror story. You click on it, you just fill the information out and it comes right to us. So be sure to submit those homeowner horror stories. Of course, we would love it if you would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube or on whatever platform you're listening. Check out our socials. Jess does our social media. She's a social media maven. They're pretty fire. I'm just saying they're pretty fire. We
And
did.
the content.
She brings the heat on the content. So if you want to have a laugh, you want to have a good time, you want to interact with us, but it's both of us. Look, check us out we have LinkedIn, we have Instagram, and
Facebook.
we have a Facebook.
At Chicks in Construction Podcast.
Yeah. So check us out, y'all. And until we see you next time, goodbye.
Bye.